Morning, Nick.
Hey, how are you?
I am a little tired, actually. I stayed up last night and watched this thing break down, and it was pretty cool. I half wish I would have stayed up a little bit later to see the whole thing. I didn't imagine it would do all the things it's doing. Just before we get started, I'll show you my screen and just kind of like I've told I messaged you about that play that I've seen so many times now. And now I'm sure of it. It's like this is the thing I'm really looking for. So anyway,
All right, good.
all right. Do you want to start? Do you want me to start? Do you care?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
It's normal routine. You go first, so go ahead.
Yeah. All right.
I'm good with
Well,
that.
so here's the thing. We're still in the bullish price channel, which is it kind of doesn't look like it, but we are. We're right around here. And I noticed something yesterday, with this close being, you've got this outsized day that dips down, closes at the high, and then a day that opens outside of it, and then largely, I think sells off and then closes at the low. But if you'll notice, it's just below that outsized day low, which is kind of interesting on its own if you're a Wyckoff price channel person, given the fact that we've tried to break out of this channel twice and now we're back in it. So that's as Wyckoff would say, that's the market telling you what it's what it's about to do, or what the probabilities are. So yesterday, I noticed that what we were doing. If I need this, I don't need this anymore. What I noticed yesterday was this channel had been formed since Monday, and then the overnight of Monday, and then we tried to respect it as we were trading throughout the day. We tested down, we tried to respect it, hold, and then just couldn't, and then broke down through it. And then last night, right around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I start seeing this bounce like this, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this thing's going to break down big. And of course, it did. I saw this, and then I saw that right there down into that move, and then I went to bed. But so I didn't expect it to do that. But there's something else that I just saw, and I don't know what this means on the higher time frame. I'm just pointing out an artifact that I know typically what it means when the auction is there, and that's this extraordinarily low volume area here, low volume area here, and then not super low, but lower than normal volume area here, and then we've started to build up right here in this area. So typically what happens when you are in a low volume area like that is you balance until it's sort of repaired or auctioned all the way through again. So from my perspective, where I expect us to see some support is right in this area here. And I'm being really generic and broad because of the fact that it's not going to be easy to call out. We may already be there, in the overnight. The overnight has had, three successive waves down with expanding delta, as you can see here. Oh, not that. Sorry. Hold on. I'm too zoomed out. Let me show you. Let me zoom back in. And what that tells me, there it is. What the expanding delta tells me is that the buyers just really aren't able to do anything about it. So what I'm really looking for, even though we're at 2 sigma, negative 2 sigma, and the probabilities just stand to reason that we're going to go up rather than down. What I'm looking for is expanding delta. I'm really looking for buyer control and just an exhaustion to the low side. So that would look like a new low with not new delta low, and into support as I mentioned before, where we kind of expect to see buyers be present. But even at that, I'm largely expecting balance, and I'm expecting the the market to accept these prices. I'm not looking for the market to reject them, even though it's done it, 3, 4 times now. So that said, if that's wrong and the market does reject it right away, then I'm expecting us to come right back up to this point of control and trade probably nearly this entire range. And I'll say that because in scenario two, what I notice is every time I won't be able to point this out with examples, but just generically, I can make the point that every time we came down here, that this is when the range expansion happened on the RTH session. When we got up in the higher side, that's where it started to collapse. It wasn't the range really wasn't there in the overnight session or in the RTH session. So if buyers are going to step up and we're obviously we're across multiple time frames at this point, this is where I would expect to be a wider ranging RTH day normal session for for this particular auction. And then I don't even know if it's really worth planning for a fuller, larger breakdown. Yeah, I just don't. So those two scenarios are basic balance between key areas here in this auction, as I pointed out, right around this area and below, or a rejection and then a retracement basically to the mid of the balance area. And what that would look like is basically what Monday did. So I think that's it.
Hmm. Not clear how you're going to trade that though.
I
What's
don't
your
know.
first?
Yeah, I my
Okay.
first I don't I'm not gonna my first move is wait to see if I was gonna do, excuse me 1 second, I have to um, there you go. Now I can speak. My very first anticipation is that if we don't make a new low and we pull back, then I'm going to be looking to the short side for continuation down because we're set up to momentum and all of those things are there. But if we do make a new low on less delta, I'm really
Mhm.
just going to wait for the market to set up and show me something. I don't see any. We always talk about shortening the hole. I
Mhm.
I don't I don't see an advantage or an opportunity to trying to short the low of a -2 sigma day, given how this whole balance area has played out. And then I would think that I would know that it's balanced by the IB, and then I would be looking to just play the outsides.
Okay. So, just going to show you the big picture and then go right down to where we are. The only thing I noticed about yesterday, which was interesting, is that it was a relatively low um, range day, and the body of the whole day is above all of this, but the market could not really advance. I'm just going to point out this. This is the delta, cumulative delta, which has really, in the bigger picture, has started turning negative here. So from here to here, there has been aggressive sellers. Now, again, they're losing at the moment, but I just want to point that all out because what I'm why I'm pointing all that out is because I think we could be in an area where the trend has the possibility of changing from a larger picture bullish to a larger picture bearish. So how would that look? So in the overnight session, we got this. Okay, so let me point out again. This is the narrow range day. This is the day yesterday. We did this, we did this, we did this. We basically balanced in this upper range, continued the balance in the overnight session, and have broken down. Right? Boom. So we've broken down. Now, to me, in the short term, the bears have kind of taken over control at the moment. And what I'm going to be looking for is that this area where we are currently is defended. That's going to be the first sign. And then this area is going to be the last sign. If the bears can't keep it below this balance area, okay, so I'm looking at these 13s right in here. If they can't keep it below this area, this doesn't mean anything. And we're ready for one of these again. The only reason why I'm saying that this is less likely, because remember on Monday I was saying that on first test, this is a very big support zone and it should hold. But on second test, that's not so likely to hold, in my opinion. And I do agree that you're going into a lower volume zone. If you start to trade down in here, you can start to see how this composite starts to, this is, by the way, the composite point of control at 94 is the big composite control of this whole chart. So in here is very thin. And I would say that if we start to trade down here, there's a likelihood we start to go back down to these, this area and start to see where this volume comes in again. So the only thing that would, so what am I looking for? Let's just go to that because that's the most important thing. I'm looking for two things. On the short sides, I'm looking for this to maybe press through, get a rejection, take out this low, and start a trend day that starts going down. Alternatively, it could pull back higher into this area before we get the move lower. This would be probably a little bit, this pullback means bulls are stronger. So that means they're going to try to defend this area. So it might look more like this, with this and then that and this and something like that. It might be much more choppy, which, would be less likely to be good for the downside. But I'm looking at two levels here. This is the 6 level. This is the 13 level, 38.6, 38.13. And I'm looking for those areas to hold for the short-term bears to stay in control. If they don't, then this could just be another one of those big bounces. I think it's less likely this time because it is second test. So I'm just pointing that out. Last thing is, you probably know this already, 2 o'clock, we're going to hear from the Fed. Mm-hmm. There's guaranteed the Fed is not going to say anything bearish. If the markets react to that bearishly, I don't know. But they're not going to say anything bearish. So around 2 o'clock, you're going to get a dose of bullishness. Whether or not the markets take it that way, we'll just have to see how it goes. If it's trend day down, the 2 o'clock thing might just represent another, blip in the screen. If it's a consolidation day where we take out the 6s right away and we start to head up towards the 13s and we kind of rotate around, then the 2 o'clock thing might push us back up into the range. And when I mean the range, I'm talking about the range from here to here. Right? There's a chance that we take out this 88 low and start to trade this range. If we do that, certainly would be a better market, a lot more fun to trade, a lot more volatility, better setups, I think, overall. Days like this, to me, are torture. Just freaking torture.
Yeah. So. Yes. Yesterday, I was telling you that I was chipping ice off a glacier. It just seemed like I couldn't accomplish anything. But even though I ended the day really well, everything just was a fight to get something going because I wasn't part of the the first initial.
But you know what, Josh, we got to make note of yesterday because I find on the most frustrating sideways days is what starts these moves in a bigger way. Like, that's the thing you got to be really aware of. My God, this thing is just coiling and coiling and coiling, and all of a sudden, boom, and it happened here. Happened right on this day here, right? And then we got another move down, and it's happened again here, and we got this move down.
Well, and both of them are, I can see visually if I were to drive price channels on them, they do the same thing. Look at that. You're at the high side of a balance area. It starts bouncing outside of that price channel. Boom, drops.
Yep. Yep. And look how fat these profiles are. I mean, you can compare the profile. Compare this profile to this profile. I mean, compare this profile to even this one is a lot wider, longer, range is higher. And this is relatively narrow too. So yeah, I mean, I think because we're always near these all-time highs, liquidity breaks can happen and they can be kind of fierce.
Mm.
It's just that so far, every one of them has been bought up. So we'll see.
The let me go back to one thing. I just want to make sure that I'm like I said, I'm gonna go pretty slow today. But the one thing that I did normally do and I didn't do today is we're utterly imbalanced from the overnight. So to that end, what I'm thinking that the key inflection point of the overnight is in this area. This is the auction that I was actually watching. Um, and I still think we can come up even that far and still make a brand new low. But this is why I'm a little concerned because our markets are very different. If you look at yours, you're still in range, and I'm not. I've completely left my range, and I'm down below into the last liquidity test down here when it sold off the last time. So
Yeah.
I'm a little, I mean, I'm a little with being two sigma down. It's just a little hesitant to think that, oh, if we start breaking right at this low, that I want to be part of that. But it's probably going to move fast, and you won't have a second chance at it, if that is the move that you're trying to get on, and then your
Well, I
location gets
mean,
poorer and poorer after that.
yeah, and it gets harder and harder and harder to get on, and then all of a sudden you're going to be looking at bounces and trying to get long.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, like I already took this short. You could see in this chart that um, I took this short in the pre-market when it pushed back up into here for a move back down into this range. I don't know that I would take it again right now, but I'm going to be looking in this area. This is that first primary area where I might even shift this zone up a bit, to watch up in the 7-7 area. But yeah, I mean, this is the hardest part about where we are because either we're going to bounce higher and we're going to, this is the low and the overnight low is already in place and we're ready to move up like we did on Monday, or we're going to get the unusual break lower. And it's not going to give you good location if it's going to be the latter. If it's going to be a break lower, you're not going to get, 38.80 anymore. It's
Well,
just,
and I think that's what's a little frustrating, at least at my current skill level, is that you sit there and you see your inflection, point for the downside and you wait and it's like a 20-point move to that, but trying to get long into that seems senseless, or at least, not optimal. And I
yep.
and that's just that's some one part of trading that I've never had a really firm grasp on is when do you try and take the runner up to your key location when you start to see strength, do you take that move up into your turning point that you're expecting to take over for the bias of the day at that point. It's so frustrating to watch it move all the 20 points. You sit there and you watch and you wait and you wait and you wait, and then you go to take it. And even if you don't get stopped, let's say you get something off and you see that it's not going to work, and then it rips through, and you're like, well, okay, is this the way that's supposed to be? Am I supposed to wait all this time for it to not do anything I thought it would do? Okay.
That's exactly what it's supposed to be. Not only is it supposed to be that, it's guaranteed to be
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
So we
Yes.
just got to deal with that frustration and work with it as best we can. But yeah, I don't see it any other way. It's funny thing about we have to be willing to take a shot at the unknown. Right now, the unknown is, do I get short at relatively bad location and look for the lows to be taken out, or do I wait? And the location could only get worse if I was right in that analysis, right? Or I'm going to get run over
Yep.
on the short side. And you just got to make sure that that short is put in an area that you feel comfortable that if you get run over, you don't need to re-enter the short. You're run over. You're done.
Yes. The other thing, and I don't know if this is helpful or matters, but I don't see any kind of price channel to the downside. And one of the things that I have learned to do on the 1 minute time frame is especially when things are unclear. If you don't see a price channel in one direction or another, that's probably because it's balancing. and it just hasn't, you know, worked out the edges of the ring yet.
Mm.
So I'm seeing the same kind of thing. I see one potential thing now, as I look at my charts. I know we're over here, but I'll just do this one thing. I see one potential right there, like that, and that's a maybe. But in order for that to be it, this is going to have to come up from here. This
Yeah,
has to
and go
hold.
right into the LVN,
Yep,
which it should reject if the sellers are in strong control and
yep,
in good control. And if they don't reject there, the sellers are not in control.
yep. And if
That's
this
it.
breaks at the open or before the open, then this is not the price channel, and there's just not any support there. So
The worst part of this is, I think, is that if the sellers are truly in strong control right now, they don't have to retrace to that level,
no, that's right.
and it can just go.
Yeah, that's right. I'm
That's the challenging part, I think.
Well, and the other thing too, and I see this visually, is just looking at, if you look at broad strokes, this almost looks like, and then up, boom. I mean, that does not look strong at all. I mean, it looks
I
very different
mean,
than
the
the
fact that
ES.
we're retesting the lows of Monday right now, that's not positive.
Yeah,
That can't be considered positive. We rejected those lows on Monday and we're back here again. That's
yeah,
not bullish.
yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Well, good luck
Great.
this morning.
Yeah, you too.